Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to ANTICS, the number one podcast of Cal I. Yep. I don't know if I can say that and have it actually be true. I don't know if there are other podcasts to compare it to at Cal I.
That just makes you the best one then.
Yes! Victory. Alright, I'm here today with my guest.
Hi, Inaya. What's up?
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Well, Inaya.
You should film these and put it on a YouTube channel.
Dude, you're a genius. I've been trying to. My camera doesn't record longer than 12 minutes.
Oh.
It's ridiculous. So I was actually going to buy a live stream camera. It's only like $200 and it does everything. And I would stand it right there and then you could see all the antics.
Mr. Andrews is doing a podcast. Did you hear about it?
I did.
But it's just on YouTube.
I like it. It's cool. Yeah. I've checked it out.
Did you see the clip of Mr. Starkney yet?
No.
It's him playing the trumpet or whatever.
Did you have Mr. Starkney?
No. Oh, the saxophone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then there's elements flying behind him.
I want to hear him talk to Mr. Sandusky. Like as a cutie. And he plays the clarinet. Like, well, anyway.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk to you today about, I wanted to start us off on discussing how mental health is discussed.
Yeah.
So, in psychology, we're beginning the mental health unit, mental illness, and so we talk about how there's stigmatization on like if somebody were to have like a broken arm, they wouldn't be like embarrassed to show their cast. However, in the mental illness spectrum of it, people are it's still something looked down upon and looked as like something that is like in your control because it's like not like something physically happening to you when in reality it absolutely is.
Yeah, it's like harder to prove. You know what I mean? Like you can easily like make it up if you like haven't gotten checked out. You know what I mean? So a lot of people are like, you go to your parents, you're like, oh, I think I have this. So like you're just imagining that. Like that's not real, or you just want attention. But it's like with a broken arm, they can see that you have a broken arm.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's why there's that whole stigma around it. And there's also like a whole cultural thing. Like a lot of like people who are religious, they don't believe in that stuff. They're like, oh, just pray to God and you'll be fine. Or like other like just cultures who just don't believe in that stuff. There's lots of stigmas around it.
I see. So, do you mind prefacing this with a little explanation of your own experience with mental health?
Okay. So, I was diagnosed with depression at 4. 4 years old.
You could talk?
Yeah. I guess.
Okay.
And then anxiety when I was 6, when I moved to San Ramon.
Okay. So, how does that work? How did they know when at 4 and 6? Because it feels like. So,
I think.
I just don't know how the.
With depression, it's kind of easy to, like, see because it's like a chemical imbalance. So they just saw that I had a chemical imbalance. I had like serotonin, things like that. You know what I mean?
So then you can scan.
You can test that. Anxiety is kind of just symptoms. I had all those symptoms, and then they. And I think because I was so young and showing up symptoms, it was harder for me to like lie about it because I didn't know what anxiety was. So I think that's that's why I didn't get any of the stigma, like how I would say like the cultural things. Because my parents are like the type of people who are like, that does not exist. And because I was so young, they're like, how could she just make this up? You know what I mean?
So they believed the doctors.
Kinda, yeah. So. Like, do you want me to just, like, talk about it? Like, what do you want from me?
Anything that you, about just, like, how do your parents, do they try to, like, one of the main points in the social commentary of the Joker was about how, the worst thing about having a mental illness is having to pretend that you don't have it. Do your parents feel like you should pretend that you don't have it?
Oh, for sure. They don't want me talking about it. They don't, like, none of my, only my immediate family knows. Like, none of my cousins or anybody know.
The extended don't really believe in it?
No. Not that they don't believe in it. I mean, like, my cousins believe in that stuff, but my parents don't want me talking about it. because it's kind of like an embarrassing thing. Because they kind of, I don't know if this is just like my culture or like there's like a lot of cultures I feel like believe in this, but like it's like it weakens you. It's like a weak thing. You know what I mean? Like you have this, okay, well you're just not strong enough to deal with it. So your body attacked you with depression, whatever. Like that's what my dad thinks.
That's strange.
It is strange.
So why do you think about that for a second? Like why do you think that's his idea on when looking at mental health, when it's like you don't say that you're not strong enough to deal with like a broken arm, or because I guess like a broken arm would heal just by itself, but I guess mental illness is something that you really have to work at to fix. So I'm sorry, I'm getting sidetracked, but just the idea of just why do you think your dad thinks that like you just aren't strong enough?
I don't. My dad is a very strange man. He thinks random things. Like he's the type of person that's like, okay, if you're a boy and you cry when you're hurt, you're like a pussy or something like that.
Okay.
So with like me, he's like, you just like, why are you crying? Like, why are you doing this? It's fine. Like, it's just like a chemical imbalance, whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's not a big deal. So why are you making it a big deal? Kind of.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. That sounds not like a great parenting strategy.
Yeah, whatever.
But it's all good. So then I guess continuing. So we engaged in discussion in psychology about like what is it? Like what is like your idea of like what is mental health? Like how do you define it?
How do I define it?
Yes.
I would say like how you and your body like deal with emotions, how you deal with like coping, things like that.
So you think us and our body are separate entities? You said you and your...
I think like your conscience and your body are two different things. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And then what do you think are some common like misconceptions around it? Like some myths that still need to be worked on?
For me, I think there's a whole thing like being depressed and having depression are two very different things. You know what I mean? Like you can be in like a depressed state, you could be in like a really sad state, and like it could be like really serious, but then depression is like a chemical imbalance. You know what I mean? So you could be really sad, you could be like in that depressed state without, and if you don't have that chemical imbalance, you don't have depression. You know what I mean? Which I feel like I heard that a lot yesterday. What was it yesterday? Yeah. In the conversations, like people were talking about how they were depressed, but they like weren't. You know what I mean? Like you have to be diagnosed with that or something. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, like I've heard people with anxiety, and they talk about how people who don't have anxiety, they don't feel anxious at all, that's not true. Like people can feel nervous, people could feel anxious. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have anxiety, but I think a lot of people think that if they feel a certain way that people with like, you know, these mental illnesses feel, then they automatically have that mental illness, which is not true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's a very big misconception about mental health and mental illness. Yeah.
Interesting. I think a big one on the misconception is that like it's not really a misconception, but well, kind of, because what I've noticed is that people who don't experience the symptoms of say anxiety or depression, because those are the big ones, they don't. There comes a point where the why can't be answered. And I think that is where the disconnect in understanding really stems from. It's like, well, why do you feel that way? Well, because I think this. Well, why do you think that? And it's like, I don't know. You know, so I think that's really where having a dialogue is really important with individuals affected by mental health. So then, continuing, hold on. Okay, so now we're going to talk about personal experience. So, Inaya, if you'd be so kind as to help engage in a discussion, I would love to hear your own personal experience with what do these illnesses actually entail, because there's like depression and anxiety, they're just words, but we don't really, sometimes we're disconnected with what they are.
So with anxiety, you know that scene from Get Out when he like goes into like his void?
Yes.
Or his like, you
the
know
sunken
what I mean?
place.
Yeah, that. So
Absolutely.
it's like, you know how he's freaking out, but like no one can hear him? So that's literally, I remember watching that movie and like freaking out because what he was or like how he was is exactly how I've felt like my entire life, but I didn't know how to explain it. You know what I mean? So it's like you're freaking out. Like it's like not necessarily like it's like not an out of body experience, it's like an in body experience where like you like for me, like I literally like when I have a panic attack, whatever, it's like I go into that place and like my whole conscience and I see through that place. You know what I mean? And like I'm freaking out and I don't necessarily show it from the outside. You know what I mean? And like I don't have much control over my body or whatever, but I'm literally freaking out. And like I feel myself freaking out because I'm in that place. You know what I mean? And like my perception or whatever is through that place, which is really interesting how they were able to show that in the movie perfectly.
That is really interesting.
I remember I saw that, I was like, whoa, maybe like, because I haven't heard anyone else say that perspective before. And like I watched the movie, I was like, wow, okay.
So what I'm hearing, it's like when you're like you're feeling like you're sinking, but it's all internal, and it like on the external, you're just like standing there.
It's like I have no control over. Yeah.
I see.
And it's just like I'm in like this black box, and like I can see, but like not very. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like a. You remember when Mr. Quick was saying yesterday how like they were showing the video, and then he started blacking out.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like that. Like I can't move. I can't do anything. It's like I'm blacked out. I can like kind of see, but it's like I can only see myself freaking out.
Interesting.
Yeah. With my depression, that's kind of harder to explain. It's kind of like my mind is like completely blank. If that makes sense. I don't really know how to explain it. I'm trying to. It's just like everything's like dark. If that makes. I don't know how to explain it. Does that make sense?
Everything's dark.
Like it's
like there's a dark cloud.
Yeah. It's like
over.
Everything's like foggy almost. Like not like my vision isn't foggy necessarily, but it's like I could be thinking about something, but then it like cuts off. You know what I mean? And like it gets like I don't even know how to explain it. It's like my mind doesn't work properly whenever when I'm off my pills. Well, we don't have to. But it's like I don't know how to explain it. It's like there's like this fog or like this cloud over my brain, and then that whenever I start to think about something, it's kind of like eaten up by that cloud.
I see. So is the cloud a representation of like thought? Like does that influence the thought process?
It kind of like takes away the thought process for me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like I don't have a thought process, or like I start to and then it like just cuts off almost. It's very strange. It's like it's like completely empty.
So that cutting off, that's what leads to that like the feeling. Because is depression a feeling or is it like a state of being?
It's kind of both. You know what I mean? Like I feel like for me, it starts off as a state of being, but then you're in that state for so long, you start to feel it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think depression is personally, that's very, not like hard, like, because it's like I can't talk about it, but it's like I don't know how to put into words how it's like. Anxiety is a little easier.
So, as someone who hasn't experienced, like, or is not diagnosed, I would say, my stigma around depression is like, I feel it's like just a continual thought process of like like always seeing the worst, like always envisioning the worst case scenario, and like having the like where when the thoughts come, like the thoughts become real in like the person's own head, or like a constant like little voice telling you that like you aren't good enough and like you don't deserve anything. That's kind of like what I don't know where I came up with that idea version of it, but I guess through existing.
I think definitely for some people it's like that. The thing is, like with mental illness, literally everyone who has it or everything is like it's completely different for every person. Like how it affects them, how they cope with things, like everything's different. For me personally, there are times where it does get like that, where there's like a voice, like not necessarily mine, but like a voice like giving me like these bad thoughts and like that. And it kind of like gets to that point, but that's after like a while, you know what I mean? For me, like the most of the time, like I said, it's like it cuts off like my thoughts, and like for me when I feel like it's like, oh, I'm like useless, you know what I mean? But that's like me. That's like, it's not necessarily like it's kind of weird. It's not like an internal thought. It's just kind of like a feeling of like you're like, oh, you're useless. You don't have a thought process. Who doesn't have a thought process? Like you can't think for yourself, things like that. You know what I mean? So that's where it kind of like drives from, and then it gets into like what you were saying, like kind of it gets into that. But there are other people that like depression that's like literally that's what it's like all the time. Like even the pills don't really help. Like for me, thank gosh, like pills and like medicine does help me. But yeah, so I think, so people probably do feel that way. That's probably why you heard of it or thought of that, because that's not too far off.
Absolutely. So then, when like looking for resources to help, like, is there any like, is there a cure? Like, is it just something that's there forever and then just never goes away, but you just have to learn how to manage it, or is it like a cold where you can get cured from it eventually?
I think anxiety you can I don't know if cure is the exact word for it, but it can get better. Like anxiety, like I know people who like they still get anxious for some things, but like it's like for nothing, like barely anything. You know what I mean? So I don't know if it's like 100% cured for people. Especially with depression, I'm not really sure with that, but definitely like people are more not necessarily okay with having it, but they know how to deal with it more, to the point where they don't even know that they have it anymore. Like I have talked to people like that who have just been able to deal with it so well that they don't even realize they have depression or anxiety anymore. Okay. So I think that might be the extent of it. I'm not really sure though. I'll look it up and let you know. But that's just with the people I've talked to.
So, interesting. And then with the people you've talked to, first, how many people like in your own life do you feel are affected by some sort of mental illness?
So anxiety runs in my family. My sister has it. My grandma has it. A lot of my cousins have it. I'm the only one in my family with depression. I don't know anybody who with a diagnosis of depression. I'm the only one like in my life that like I know that has it. But anxiety, I know a lot of people who have it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how do people cope with that? How do what's the trend that you see is ways that like first, what is like when they realize they have it and they're diagnosed, what's the first step in like seeking out treatment?
So the first step, I was really young. You gotta go to a therapist. You kind of just talk it out. You know what I mean? Like you were saying, like the dialogue. You kind of just have to find the root cause. Because even when you do have anxiety, there's always a root cause for why you're being anxious. Whether that could be something so stupid that isn't even related to the thing that you think it is. So you kind of just have to talk it out. with someone who like knows how to like find the intricate parts of your life that could be causing it. So I think just finding someone to talk to, I think especially like a trained person, because yeah, they're more likely to find the cause. And if you find that cause and you like kind of cool that off, then you like that once, like that everything, like the trail of that thing, like kind of all of it calms down. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yeah, I think finding like someone to talk to. Like I know our school, we have a school psychologist that's free to talk to. So like finding someone like that to talk to. Yeah, I think that's the first step.
That really like understands.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So then, what are the ways people treatment? Like what is treatment? So it's just talking, and then is it and then it's because I guess since everybody varies and there's different levels, is it wrong to prescribe like this one pill for everybody when the situations are so different and like one, like what are there different types of medications for different types of?
Yeah, there are. Well, those are different types, but like everyone reacts to things differently, and you kind of just like with me at least we had to like experiment like which ones worked. I think that's the only way you can do it. You kind of have to just try it.
What are the pills like make you feel?
They kind of just cool you down. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, like when you're worried about something and your like heart kind of like starts beating fast.
Yeah. So
you're still thinking about it, but you're not, like your body isn't reacting to it, if that makes sense.
So it slows your heart down in that example that you're using?
Yeah. So it cools your body off so you don't have like that like sense of like butterflies in your stomach. You still, it doesn't take away your thought process, but because you don't have that like physical like freaking out, it helps you think about your thoughts more, and you can think through things. Yeah, with my experience with everything. Interesting.
You want to know what I was thinking about the other day is when we were doing the positive psychology unit and we were doing meditation, when we were sharing our experiences with meditation, you had said that you felt like you were wasting your time and you just felt like doing nothing.
Yeah.
Like, can you explain to me, like, I was trying to follow up, like, your explanation of, like,
so I've had anxiety and, like, depression since, like, a very young age, and we've tried so many things, and I gave meditation a good try, many times, and it just doesn't work. So every time I do it now, it's just frustrating because I know that it works for other people and it just doesn't work for me.
Damn.
And I'm like, oh, it just makes me mad. But that's, yeah.
How old were you when you started trying?
I think I was like 8 or 9, and then we stopped and it worked. We tried in 7th grade and then in 10th grade. But
so what is that? How did that work? Was it like guided meditation?
Yeah, it was like
you were in a room with someone and they were like talking to you?
Yeah, it was like the thing with Mr. Quick, but we were in like this dark room with essence and stuff, things like that. But it just didn't work, and I was just like, this is a waste of time. I see. After I heard you say that and I started trying to meditate, while I was doing it, I would like think about, I would be like, I'm doing nothing right now. I was like, ah! I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good because then after like, what I do personally with meditation is I love like the guided meditation videos on YouTube. The Honest Guys, shout out. They have great ones. I just like because they have like the music in the back and it's just like I don't know. I really like. I like the focus. Like it's like a nice like. I feel like I can just be in my own brain. Yeah. And I feel like that with when used as a treatment is something kind of like hard. Because then you like if you're in your own head, that's like the place where it's like that's like I don't know. The brain is crazy. Yeah, the brain is strange because it'll like it'll just like it just tells you stuff. It just tells you like and then when you're trying to like think about like I don't know. I like when the meditation like it's like everything will be okay. you are great. And it's kind of like that. Yeah. But anyway, how does with how does culture play a role in assessing mental health? Like what can you like kind of compare like Middle Eastern culture to like American culture when it comes to like how we view mental health?
With my culture, they just don't really believe in that stuff. It's kind of it's not even just like taboo, because like no one talks about it. I think it's getting better now.
So so it's like that this tripped me out when we were talking in psychology where just quick.
Mm-hmm.
Where we talked about how like you can understand a concept better when you have a word for it. Like they don't like it's like not even having a word for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
It's
it's very much like no one talks about it, you know? And like if someone does talk about it, it's so like brushed off that like it's like nothing. Yeah.
So it's just like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then okay, so one thing that I thought was interesting in psychology yesterday was when we were talking about like what it is, and the person who I was talking to. So basically, to preface this, it's like he gave us numbers 1 to 2. 1s were on the inside of a circle, 2s were on the outside of a circle. Or actually, that's flipped, but whatever. And then the outside would just shift, and each person would have a minute to talk about the question they were prompted. It wasn't a discussion; it was just 1 minute monologue, 1 minute monologue in response. And then, so the person I was talking to, he said, I asked, the question was, what is mental health? And he said it's something negative. So his idea was that it's like all mental like illness, because it has that word illness. It is like a bad thing. And so he said it's something like that makes life like worse. And I think that that's just an interesting interpretation of like what it is, because personally I believe that like everything that happens in your past like makes you who you are, like I guess better or worse. And so to hear that this person thinks that all mental illness makes life inherently like worse is an interesting thing to an interesting way to think to me. Not necessarily a good way, but bad. And so that's kind of where I feel that the culture of America is generally. And so I just wanted to ask you, what do you think about that?
I definitely think that mental illness makes people's lives difficult. I think more difficult. I definitely agree with you when it's like it makes them who they are. But definitely like I don't know, like especially like when my depression hits hard, like that's not fun. Like that's not cool. Like that's something that's like rough. But they're also like I kind of see what he's getting at, because there are a lot of mental illnesses that are rough, like shopaholics, like that's like a real thing, and they like are in hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, or like narcissism, where like no one wants to be their friend, or things like that. Have you watched Blue Jasmine?
No.
Oh, I recommend.
Blue Jasmine? Is it about a person with narcissism?
Yeah.
So narcissism is a real disease.
Mm-hmm.
And it's where you think that everything revolves around you.
Yeah. It's
you're
really
the
interesting.
Coolest.
Yeah, you should watch Blue Jasmine. It's so cool.
Where's it on?
Netflix.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So how does that show depict narcissism? Like, because it's a real, like, how do you treat narcissism?
You can't. I don't even think you can.
It's just a condition where you think you're the coolest person ever.
I mean, maybe try to change their thought process, but that's kind of, I don't even know how you would do that. But I remember watching that movie, and especially at the end, you were like, oh, okay. Maybe that isn't like... Because of the whole movie, you're like, okay, it's not that bad. And at the end, you were like, okay.
It's a movie?
Yeah, it's a movie.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love movies.
It's like a short movie, too.
Nice.
Yeah. So, recommend. I think you'd like it.
Cool.
But... Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people, like going back to the question, a lot of people are like, oh, when you have someone in your life with a mental illness, it's really bad. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm like, okay, maybe that's not true. Because people kind of treat it like, I don't even know how to explain it, like they fend for themselves or whatever. Like, that's how I feel like America kind of is like, oh no, like, I'm sorry, like, this has this
like,
or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah,
deal
like
with
it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't like change who the person is. You know what I mean? It kind of is just something they have to go through.
So the mental illness is something separate from the individual.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like, for me, and like with my experience, like my mental illnesses, it's like it latches onto my thoughts. It latches onto who I am, but it's not who I am. It kind of just
it latches on.
It kind of like overrides it, but it's not who I am.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Because I think, especially like with anxiety, I told you, like, I'm still like there, but I'm just freaking out. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still there, and I'm still like watching it all happen, but I just can't really do anything about it. So like I said, it kind of like overrides the whole thing, but you're still there. You're still who you are. It's just, yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. I like that. And I'm running through my head about the rest of the questions. Mr. Quick asked, what is depression? What is anxiety? What are the coping strategies? And so I wanted to ask you personally, because you are someone who has insomnia as well, added on to these issues. So, how, in your personal experience, how has like insomnia affected like?
That's been a little rough, because here's the thing: I have like severe insomnia. I sleep about an hour or two every night. Sometimes even less than that. Sometimes I don't sleep at all. Like I told you, like when I was younger, I would go like 2-3 days without sleeping, and just like, so I think for me, when I start having like bad thoughts, I kind of talk it out with somebody, but at 3:30 nobody is awake. You know what I mean? So I kind of have to like talk to myself, and like sometimes that doesn't work. So it's kind of like this like vicious cycle where I'm like going back and forth with myself, and like the bad part's winning sometimes, and and then I have to wait till someone wakes up.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So I think that's the reason why it's like my mental illness is as bad as it is because I have a lot of time to like think to myself.
Because then you're alone.
Yeah.
And then it's that spiral.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, have you ever tried journaling? You a big fan of journaling?
I've tried it.
Whenever I journal, it's like I'm talking to myself. I'm like, hey, Cameron. Oh, what's up, Cameron? Oh, not much. So maybe if you, while you're talking to yourself, if you see the conversation you're having, and then you look at it, you're like,
I think especially like with me, yeah, I guess. But like, I don't know if I was telling you, but like with my insomnia, sometimes I forget things that happen. Like I will like, sometimes I like film myself, and then like an hour or two later, like when it gets like, I'll film something I did at like 3:30, and then I'll like at like 8 o'clock I'll look at it. I'm like, I don't remember me doing that.
Holy crap!
Like it's like I go into like this like psycho mode. You know what I mean? Like I don't. See. Yeah.
So like what are like the side effects of insomnia? Or is that the right word? Side effect? Like because while reading Fight Club, the dude had insomnia, and he like there was a whole other layer of complexity because he had like multiple personality disorder. Yeah. But just the idea of insomnia, he would forget things. He would forget like where he was, and then he felt like things like weren't real, like as they were happening, because he was so sleep deprived that he just so I'm really interested in understanding like what that like, what does it entail? Like, what does that mean for, like, cognition, if that makes sense?
There's times where I get so little sleep that I think my teddy bears are talking back to me. Yeah. So that's something, like, I imagine stuff, but then I forget everything. Like, I remember that, but that's only because I filmed myself. I film myself a lot. Well,
So you can make sure it's real?
I don't know why I do it. I don't remember the thought, but I always remember I wake up and I look, I'm like, I don't remember doing that an hour and a half ago.
Maybe you have split personality that just really wants you to become a vlogger. Maybe it's just your subconscious telling you.
Maybe I should try it.
Inaya, insomnia vlogs, some vlog.
No, but the thing is, I don't talk. It's so weird. It's like I'm mumbling.
This is interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But like it's because you could tell it's I don't even know how to explain it because I'm mumbling and I'm making no sense, but you can still tell it's me. You know what I mean? It's not like a completely different person. Like you could tell. Like,
is it like you're sleepwalking? Is it like that?
Yeah, kinda. Yeah, like, it is.
Are you?
Yeah, I guess. But like,
I'm
conscious.
Are you kind of like a werewolf?
I guess maybe.
Do you change based on the full moon?
Yeah. Do they forget when they change?
Werewolves?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's a whole nother thing on werewolf consciousness.
Oh.
But I think they become a different thing.
Yeah,
they just go eat deer and things. But like do you change like at the time of day? Like do you change like do you shift like mood?
Yeah, you remember do you remember the cast party afterwards?
Yes.
So so there's a point where I like don't have any, like I'm just like I'm like a blank person. I don't even know how to explain it. Like there's like no personality there. And then it gets like to really, really hyper where I'm like jumping off the walls and I can't sit down and I'm like screaming, which you saw.
Yes.
Yeah. That was so random. I don't know how that came out. And then it goes to the point where I'm like just staring at walls or like I'm imagining people talking to me or things like that. What if they are? What if there's like real, whatever. We don't have to get into
Holy
that.
crap. What do they say? Or do you not remember?
I don't remember.
No!
I remember something like I remember.
You just got to carry a journal around with you. Write it down.
Or
like your notes app. You're like, what the
Yeah.
Just write down your cog.
I bet you if I did that, it would just be like random letters.
Are you serious?
Because it's really weird. I'll send you videos if I can find some. But
that's very intriguing.
Yeah, it's like it's like, you know, when like you're really, really drunk or whatever, and then you wake up the next morning and you're like, oh, I don't remember I did any of that. It's like that.
But every day.
Yeah. I mean, some days it's better than others, but like most days, yeah, it's crazy. And then there are days where like I'm just awake, but like I'm just like normal the entire night. There are days like that.
Weird.
Yeah, it's very depends on just how.
Does it depend on the day?
Yeah, because here's the thing. It's like for me, once I sleep, I can sleep for a long time. It's just I have a difficulty falling asleep. So on school days I have to wake up, but on weekends I just sleep, and then I'm fine. You know what I mean? So I just catch up over the weekend.
I see.
So on weekends I'm not like that.
So if you're up all night, what do you do in that time? Like, is it mostly just the things we've talked about?
I just walk around.
You walk around.
There's nothing else you can do. Sometimes I walk around with my cats all around the house.
Like holding them?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And sometimes they get mad and then I put them down and they just follow me. No, one time my dad caught me just walking around the house.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the strangest thing. Because he was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm walking. And he goes, why are you walking? I'm like, what else would I be doing right now? Because my dad turns my internet off at 11, so I can't even, like, watch stuff.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. There's literally nothing else I can do.
Oh,
I didn't tell you about that? Yeah. He turns off my internet at 11.
Fudge that. I thought you said that you just had watched all of the videos on YouTube. That
too. I mean, like...
You gotta listen to Joe Rogan podcasts.
Okay.
You should download them. Download them. Download them. I'll send you some suggestions.
Okay.
You download the podcast.
Okay.
I think this is gonna change your life because then you'll be like, Joe Rogan's talking to me. What's happening?
Oh, that would be trippy.
Really like podcasts. I know this one example of like people with schizophrenia, like when they'll listen to podcasts, like they feel like they're in the conversation and they'll like talk back to the podcaster.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever done that.
There could be ghosts right now talking to us.
Oh my gosh, I used to think there was a ghost following me.
A ghost?
Yeah.
Following you?
I used to think that.
What was its name?
I don't know.
It was just...
Okay, I'll tell you. I fell asleep in a room with no blankets on like the couch in the living room. Okay? I was home alone. And then I woke up with a blanket on me, and I was still home alone. And I talked to everyone in my house, and no one said they put a blanket on me.
Maybe it was you and you forgot.
Maybe. I don't know. But
That seems like the most logical. But there also might be ghosts.
Yeah.
Ah!
Yeah, so I went around and told everyone there was a ghost following me. This was freshman year, so I wasn't even that young.
Oh?
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds spooky. Okay.
Whatever.
All right.
Can't be that bad.
Shift.
Oh yes.
Shifting gears. Would you identify yourself as a feminist? Would that be part of your identity?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, you can say no. Like, if you don't identify.
I'm a feminist. Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to ask, how do you feel throughout the history of, I guess, I'm not gonna say women. I'll say America. Throughout the history of America, how has, like, the idea of feminism shifted? And, like, yeah, we'll start there.
How has it shifted?
Yes.
I think a big thing I actually want to talk about is, like, I don't think we've made it as far as we think. I think, yeah, okay, women are allowed to vote, but that's pretty much the only change. There's still, like, a wage gap. Like, okay, girls can vote. I mean, girls can work, but, like, what is it, like 50 cents less, or?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the statistics.
Yeah, but, women get paid less, so that was, I guess, like, it's like, what, I don't know, so, like, they were fighting for us to just be there, and now we're kind of fighting for us to be equal. You know what I mean? Like, before It was like, we're just not even there. Now we're at least there.
Yes. So that's the farthest change.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So then, when we look at feminism and we look at, like, other, what's the word? Oppressed? Marginalized.
Okay.
There you go. Other marginalized groups fighting for their rights. We saw in, like, the Seneca Falls conference, when we look at history, like, that was a big divide for women when black citizens got the right to vote, and then, like, they just left women out. That was, like, a big, like, divide. Mm-hmm. So I guess feminism is a culture rooted in like, I guess, like, I don't know. I'm trying to get my thoughts like together right now. But because there's like a split in when it comes to like, there's, like, teams.
Within feminism?
Within feminism, yes. There's, like, feminists that want all people to have rights, and there's feminists that have, like, just them to have rights.
Yeah.
So, I guess my question then is, when we analyze that progression, where are we at now when it comes to the spectrum of what a feminist is and what they stand for?
Right now, I think that when it comes to, like, the grouping, I don't think there was much, like, obviously there was grouping then, like, within history, but I think there's so many different types of women in America now, like, way more than, like, back then. So, like, the grouping is, like, way more, I feel like. Like, I've definitely experienced my fair share of grouping, where I'm like, whoa, what did you just say? Like, there are certain people who, like, don't include, like, trans women within, like, women's rights, or just women of color, things like that. Or, like, different religions, too. Like, I had someone, I remember someone said to me once, or they were kind of just, like, hating on Mormonism. They were like, oh, yeah, like, they're super misogynistic, whatever. Like, I'm like, you can't say that. And they're like, why? I'm like, okay, well, it's the same thing as saying, like, Muslim women are oppressed because they wear, like, the hijabs. And then she's like, well, yeah, they are, like, to my face. I'm like, what? No, they're not. And then, so, like, I definitely experienced that. I think just because, I think, for me, actually, no. I think that there are two main groups. There's everybody, and then there's this one group. And I think that it's always been like that, but this one group is kind of not including more people, if that makes sense.
So the one group is growing.
Yeah, the one group.
That is...
I think the one group who only supports themselves, that's kind of staying the same. But the group, like, of all the other people is growing. You know what I mean? Because there's more I don't even know how to say it. Like, there's more types of people growing in America now than there were. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Alright.
so I had a question, Inaya.
Mm-hmm.
So you identify as a member of the LGBTQ plus community?
Yes, I do. Yes.
So I had a question then, because you also are a I don't know why I paused. you are part of the Muslim faith, right?
Yes.
So then I just wanted to ask, what has your experience been with being part of a religion that oppresses members of that community? Like,
it is a little bit of a mind trip, because it's very conflicting thoughts, because there are very supportive people on like one side of it, but then there are other people on the other side that are like, oh no, you can't. So it's very confusing. It's like, because within my religion, it's like being gay, like actually being gay isn't a sin. It's just acting on those thoughts is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like, okay, you can be attracted to this, but if you don't do anything, then you're still fine.
Okay.
So that's very confusing to me. You know what I mean? Because because my whole life I've been taught like, oh yeah, gay people are sinners. Like, just like, if you're gay, you're going to hell, right? When that's like not true. So like, I don't know. I think because with my religion and like people who practice my religion, I think there's a lot of misconceptions within our own communities, and like people like to teach young kids like things that are like borderline like not true at all. Like I was raised like thinking, even if you thought that the same sex was even attractive or like anything, you're going to hell immediately. Like whatever, even if you like thought about a girl differently, like that's, if you're going to hell, there's like no change in that. But that's literally nowhere near close to true. So I think very recently, like within the last year, I've been trying to figure out like a good medium, you know, but it's kind of hard because I've had like 16, 17 years of like teachings that are just like not true at all. So it's kind of...
It's a trip.
Yes.
It's a trip. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been curious of like that. That's like, because it's tricky. It's a tricky thing to get around. So I was curious. What is can you tell me anything about the Muslim faith in general? Just like what. Fuck, I don't know what my question was. Fuck. How is it different from like all the other religions? Like there's hell?
Yeah. Okay. So how I like to explain it to people is like, so there's 3 monotheistic religions. So it's like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they all believe in the same God, and they all believe in the same like prophets, right? So, but we kind of believe in like different variations of like the same story. So like with Jesus, like we believe in Jesus, but we believe that like Christians believe that he was crucified, whereas like Muslims believe that there was someone who looked like him who was crucified, and then Jesus like did something else. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So I think that's like you know, like Allah, like that's like a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's your God, like that just means God in Arabic.
Yeah.
So if there was like Christian who spoke Arabic, they would still call it Allah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing that people don't seem to understand.
Interesting.
Unless, or just not educated.
Thank you for explaining that to me. So Inaya, what in modern times? What are the biggest feminist issues or female issues that need to be addressed?
Like within like my religion or just in general?
No, just in general.
In general.
In American. Let's look at from the view of our own culture.
I think a big thing, at least like right now, like a big trend is like, you know how there's like a lot of like was she like a porn star or whatever who was like selling pictures to help Australia? Did you hear about that?
It sounds vaguely
She
familiar.
gained hundreds of thousands of dollars for Australia, but everyone was shitting on her for calling her a whore and a slut or whatever, right?
Damn.
So I know there's a whole thing where it's women are being over sexualized anyway. We might as well make a profit over it. Because there's other people who are oh, this old man asked for feet pics for $100, and then people shit on girls for doing that. Whereas they're gonna sexualize us anyway. You might as well make money off of it. Or people don't think sex work is valid work, so they criticize the sex workers, but they don't criticize the person paying them. You know what I mean? So I think that's a huge
double standard.
Yeah, I think that's
yeah.
I was talking to this guy, and we were having political discussions, and I asked him if he thought sex was valid work. And he goes, I think prostitution and things like that aren't what porn should be. I'm like, okay, so if it's benefiting you, then it's okay.
Interesting.
But if you don't do it, then it's, and he's like, oh no, I mean I would do prostitution. I'm like, oh, so I would get a prostitute. I'm like, oh, okay, so but you don't see a problem with that, but you see a problem with the girl doing it. I think that's a very common.
I think they should all be legal. If porn is is just on camera. There shouldn't be a difference between prostitution, because then I guess the argument could be made that porn is regulated, but then why aren't we regulating sex work if it's just gonna be there anyway? It's the oldest profession, you know what I mean? It's why not just throw a little regulation? Maybe you can sign up, get tested, make it a little safe, the safe injection sites. Not a bad idea.
Porn isn't even that what's it called? Organized or regularized or whatever. They tried
to make it in California. You remember when they put the prop whatever on the ballot where it made it so that porn stars had to wear condoms in LA?
Oh yeah.
in California.
No, but did you hear Pornhub? There was this 12-year-old girl missing. I don't know if she was 12, but she was a kid, and she ended up being. They found her on Pornhub.
That's weird.
Yeah.
She was missing, and then they found her.
They found her on Pornhub.
How do they know it wasn't in an old video?
She was 12. They saw the girl.
Oh, she was missing for a long time.
She was missing. They couldn't find her.
What?
And then someone was like, wait, isn't that the girl who was missing? And then they found her on Pornhub.
Oh god, that's a trip.
Yeah, that's.
Oh Jesus.
I definitely think sex work should be valid work, but I think the porn industry is very misogynistic.
Yes.
I saw on Twitter that the trending thing was this masochist thing of this girl being chained up with knives or something. There was knives involved. I don't even know. But I was that's not even sex. That's just torture. You know what I mean? Yep. So I think we just need to better the industry as a whole, and people's mindsets on it as well. I think the whole thing needs to get fixed.
So then, how can we make strides in fixing the wage gap between men and women? Where does that come from?
So I was talking to my dad about it, and he was talking about women have to take sick days off for if their kids are sick. I'm or they have to take maternity leave. I'm okay, so what if there's a single dad? That makes no sense. There's plenty of single dads or whatever. And he goes, well, they're in the minority. I'm it doesn't matter. And there are some people who don't have kids. Why would they be grouped in with that was my dad's only argument, but I came up with all these things. He's I don't know, that's just the way it goes. I'm just because someone's a woman, just because someone has the ability to have a kid doesn't mean they should get disadvantaged because of it.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that's where it comes from. At least that's where my dad was telling me.
The children?
Yeah.
I see. And so that's just been perpetuated.
Yeah.
Interesting. What do you expect from this election?
What do I expect? I think Trump's gonna win.
Yeah.
I don't.
That seems like what everybody expects. It's kind of depressing. Never thought we'd get to this point.
Me neither. Oof. I think Bernie might win the primaries, but I don't think he's gonna. Hopefully he does. I mean, I'm still gonna vote for him. I'm still gonna try, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
Damn.
If you want me to be honest, I don't know. I was having this talk with Eli, and he was getting offended. He's like, he's gonna win. I'm like, I don't think so.
I guess you have to have that optimist mentality.
Yeah, I guess.
Interesting. Well, how do you feel about just the world as a whole? Are we good?
I don't know. It's all tricky. The whole stuff with the coronavirus. I just had a whole talk with Mr. G about it this morning.
Oh, jeez. What did he say?
He was just kind of talking about how, like, because it was philosophy. So he's talking about how this, like, whenever there's, like, an outbreak of something, like, people's, like, social norms or social, like, ethics kind of, like, go out the window. Exactly. Yep. Like, you hear about that guy in Chinatown?
I've heard there's a lot of assault cases going around.
There was this guy in Chinatown that was, like, choking or something. I don't even know what happened, but he was, like...
Just coughing.
Yeah, and then he died because no one went to go help him because he was Chinese. Yeah, when it, like, first, like, the outbreak first happened in Chinatown.
Oh, because they thought he had coronavirus?
Yeah, and the people were just walking by, and he just died on the street, I think. I don't know much about it, but he died.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not good.
Mhm.
Everybody's like, it's like, okay, racism, yeah, it's cool now.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Wait a second. That doesn't seem right.
Mhm.
Shit.
It's the Chinese government, because they wouldn't believe the guy, or they didn't help the guy who discovered it. They didn't really help him when he first came to them.
Oh, yeah.
And then he died. Poor guy.
R.I.P. to our boy, coronavirus founder. Well, we're almost about at an hour. What you thinking? Anything you want to talk about?
No. I mean, I feel like we've talked about a lot. We talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about anything else? Asking you any more questions?
I got me thinking. You got me thinking now.
What?
Got me thinking about the ability to the difference between. Okay, just we'll close it out on this. All right. I want you to explain to me why, and just like convince me, right? Convince me why someone can change their gender identity.
Okay,
but
we're not doing that, Cameron. Oh my God, that question stresses me out.
It stresses you out. Why does it stress you out?
Because I don't have an answer, or I don't have I have an answer, but I can't back it up with anything. And that, because usually I can back up my opinions, but this I literally can. I don't know how to.
All right.
And then it got me thinking that maybe I'm wrong about my opinion, but you know what I mean?
Yes. Did you I
don't know, dude. Do you have an opinion on it?
I think it's a trippy mental exercise.
Yeah.
I think it's wild. Nobody knows what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Our English class does.
Yep. Well. Nope, then I think I'm good. Okay. To be continued. Catch Inaya weekdays on Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Fox?
Yep. You have your new show.
On Fox?
Yep.
All
It's
right.
called Inaya Questions Everything.
Mm.
And it's a panel of people.
Okay. Just random people?
This is random people off the street. And they ask questions, and then you question their questions.
Mm. Oh, okay. So I don't answer the questions? I just give more questions?
Yes.
All right.
Yep. Do you have any questions?
Nope.
You don't have any questions about the questions?
Do I have any questions about the questions?
Yep.
Well, I guess it depends on what the questions are.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. Well, any closing statements on what is what is mental health?
Mental health is how you cope with your emotions and how you deal with them. Yeah.
All right. Word. I like it. Awesome. Thank you for joining me.
Of course.
Sayonara.
Bye.